The physical world's sun is nothing but fire and is therefore dead. And since nature has its origin in the sun, nature is dead. In no respect whatever can creation itself be attributed to the physical world's sun. It is due entirely to the spiritual world's sun. This is because the physical world's sun is totally lifeless, while the spiritual world's sun is alive, being the first emanation of divine love and wisdom. Anything that is lifeless does not affect anything on its own, but is activated. So to attribute any aspect of creation to a lifeless sun would be to attribute the work of an artisan to the tool in the artisan's hand. The physical world's sun is nothing but fire, with all its life removed. The spiritual world's sun is a fire that has divine life within it. The angelic concept of the fire of the physical world's sun and the fire of the spiritual world's sun is like this. Divine life is internal to the fire of the spiritual world's sun and external to the fire of the physical world's sun. We can see from this that the activity of our physical sun is not autonomous, but stems from a living force that emanates from the spiritual world's sun. Consequently, if the living force of that sun were withdrawn or removed, our sun would fail. This is why the worship of the sun is the lowest of all forms of worship of God. It is just as dead as the sun itself. So, in the Word, it is called an abomination. Since the physical world's sun is nothing but fire and is therefore lifeless, the warmth that emanates from it is also lifeless, and so is the emanating light. By the same token, the atmospheres, called ether and air, that receive this sun's warmth and light and bring them down into our embrace are lifeless as well. Since all these are lifeless, absolutely all the earthly things beneath them called soils are lifeless. However, they are all surrounded by spiritual realities that emanate and flow out from the spiritual world's sun. If they were not surrounded in this way, soils could not be activated to bring forth the forms of use called plants and the forms of life called animals, and they could not provide the substances that enable us to come into being and survive. Now, since nature begins from this sun, and since everything that arises from it and is sustained by it is called, quote, natural, it follows that nature and absolutely everything in it is dead. Nature seems to be alive in us and in animals because of the life that visits it and animates it. Since the lowest elements of nature that constitute our soils are dead and not varied and changeable in response to our states of feeling and thought, the way they are in the spiritual world, but are unchangeable and stable, we have space and various spatial distances here. They have this stable nature because this is where creation comes to a close and remains at rest. We can see from this that space is proper to nature. And since space here is not an appearance of space responsive to states of life the way it is in the spiritual world, we can refer to it as dead. Since times are similarly stable and constant, they too are proper to nature. The length of a day is always 24 hours, and the length of a year is always 365 days. The actual states of light, darkness, warmth, and cold that make these differences are constantly returning as well. The states that return every day are morning, noon, evening, and night. The states of the year are spring, summer, fall, and winter. Then, too, the states of the year are constantly altering the states of the days. All of these states, since they are not states of life like the ones in the spiritual world, are lifeless. That is, in the spiritual world, there is a constant light and a constant warmth. The light is responsive to the state of wisdom among the angels, and the warmth to the state of their love. As a result, these states are alive. From this we can see the folly of people who attribute everything to nature. If we decide in nature's favor, we adopt a state in which we no longer want to raise our minds above nature. So, our minds are closed upward and open downward, and we become focused on nature and our senses, spiritually dead. Further, since all we can think about is based on the kind of information we get through our physical senses or from the world through those senses, at heart we deny God. The result is a union with hell, because our union with heaven has been broken. All we have left is the ability to think and intend, the ability to think coming from our rationality, and the ability to intend coming from our freedom. Two abilities the Lord gives every one of us and never takes away. Demons and angels alike have these abilities, but demons use them for madness and malice, while angels use them for wisdom and good.